Welcome to United State of Us podcast and video blog. My name is Erin Flood. I'm so happy to be with you today. I'm trying something new today, and that is I'm not going to have a guest. I am my own guest, and we're just going to talk about some things. So, if you're not too distracted by my crazy hair, and I know I talk about my hair in these wispies all the time, and really they're a blessing because they're growing in. If you don't know me or know this part of the story, like 2 years ago, my appendix ruptured and I had all of these crazy infections and complications and was in the hospital for a month. And now these little wispies that if you're watching this on video, you can see are kind of crazy. That's my hair growing back in still 2 years later, after I lost like half the head of my hair. So yeah, it's a sign of health. So I'm gonna go with it, with the way. But anyway, today I want to talk about three things that I have just been thinking about. And the first one is I have a love-hate relationship with social media. I've talked to many of you about that, and we've talked about it to our guests before. And one of the reasons why I don't love social media is that I think it can be very easy to fall into the comparison trap. Now, if you are like me, you follow a lot of women who have these really amazing home blogs and accounts on Instagram. And one of the accounts that actually my sister, Mandy, my older sister, told me about because she loved her style so much was Chris Loves Julia. Now, if you right away are like Chris Loves Julia, I mean, their taste is incredible. Just go and look her up on, just look her up, period. I mean, it is everything from like the moody colors that they have in their daughter's rooms and how it's accessorized. And I mean, it's like a vintage chair paired with like affordable bedding and a wall color that makes it look like you just stepped back into, I don't know, some really amazing designer home. And she just pairs everything so well. And they took this porch and this home that they were remodeling and made it these huge classic, like vintage, updated vintage look with these giant black and white checked floors. And I mean, her outfits are always dialed in. And so if you watch or follow Chris Loves Julia, you know what I'm talking about. If you don't, check it out to see what I mean. But as far as the comparison trap is concerned, it's easy to fall into well, I look around my house and my house is beautiful and we have worked very hard on it and for it, but it's not Chris Loves Julia. Okay. I don't have that design sense. We probably do not have that budget. I don't have those ideas about like how to style things and and so then, as I've talked about before, that comparison trap can leave you thinking that somebody else's something is perfect and yours is not. And you need to, I don't know, adapt or you step into the not enough space. And then Chris and Julia did a really brave thing. They came on after they have built this entire audience remodeling this home that's incredible and I mean images of their home are everywhere and like every design blog and home blog, remodeling blog, they're everywhere. And they've built this like amazing brand. Well, they announced that they're selling their home. Now, some of you are like, who cares? But I care, and this is why. These people have gone on and I don't think have presented their life as perfect, but we as an audience have bought into their life as being pretty idyllic and close to perfect, right? Because we all know social media is one snippet, one tiny fragment of someone's life. I mean, a reel doesn't even allow you more than 30 seconds, right? So it's these tiny little fragments of people's lives, but we piece them together to make them into something even greater and bigger than what they are. And I absolutely think that although Chris and Julia have um, earned their spot through their incredible taste and their work ethic and everything else, I think that, you know, as an audience, we've put them at a level that is near perfection. So anyway, they announced they're selling this home, which they've built an audience building, and they said the reason why we're doing this is because Julia is going through some things. Now, this is where these people have earned a new level of respect for me. It is no longer about the beautiful home for me, although I appreciate it even more, I think, because I know that there was a struggle in all of the beauty that they created, more than just the struggle of balancing jobs and kids. But I think she's going through some type of health something. And the other reason why they earned a new level of respect for me was because they set a boundary with their public. They didn't come on and spill every detail of their family and their intimate details about health stuff or whatever it is that's going on for them. They came on, they said, we're kind of heartbroken to sell this house, but also know that it's absolutely the right move for our family. We thought this was going to be for our forever spot, even as much as we've shown you all of these areas of our life that we were making into this thing that we thought was forever. It is not forever. And we're not even going to tell you, the nosy public, which, because we are, specific reasons about why we're selling our home. I think that it is very, very, very hard in today's world to set healthy boundaries. And even more so, it's hard to set boundaries when you are somebody who puts their life in a public space. And so not only has Chris Loves Julia account been something that I look at for design, but as of, you know, a month ago when they put this message out, I have also looked at it as a model for what I feel like is something that aligns with my values, which is, it is incredible to share things about your life with the world, but it is really important to have boundaries about things that are just meant for you and the people close to you. That's not to say I won't respect them if they choose to share further details later on, or, you know, that there wasn't part of me that was curious that thought like, oh gosh, they've let us in on so much of their life. I hope they're okay. Or I hope, no, it doesn't mean I won't respect it. It just means that I will respect the process of not feeling like just because you give a part of yourself to the public or to a space that you owe that person or that audience access to your life or access to privacy in which they haven't earned it through the familiarity of being an actual daily part of your life. And I think in today's culture, we have gotten that confused. We have confused seeing something with thinking that we understand it for 100% of what it is, when all we see are 5-second clips of a situation or someone's life. And so the people I probably will never meet in my life, Chris Loves Julia, I want to say thank you for showing what a healthy boundary looks like. And I just want to put that energy into the world that I hope whatever it is that was plaguing you or giving hardship, it sounds like maybe some health stuff, that your new beginning brings about the health and the peace that I think everybody deserves. And I look forward to watching the next home and getting ideas. So that was just the first little observation that I wanted to talk about. The second thing I want to talk about is, as you know, we have two boys, and they both are May babies. And so we were talking about, and we've been making lists about what the kids want for their birthdays. And I was thinking about the ages of our kids, and our youngest is going to be 8 years old. 8. That one is really hard for me. It is harder than our oldest turning 11. And I couldn't figure out why this was so upsetting to me. And at first I was like, well, maybe it's because for some reason in your head, he's still like 5. When he's not, he's a very capable 7 years old. And then I started to think, well, why do I still picture him as 5? And I realized that something that I need to work on right now is not making my kid's story my story, or not making my story my kid's story. So what do I mean by that? William turning 8, for some reason, I think about what Sam, our older son, was doing, and the way I thought about him when he was 8. And I probably think more about birth order than the average bear, because I'm the middle child, and I'm very aware of like my middle child story, or my middle child syndrome. And so when I think about my own kids, there's no middle, there's the oldest and the youngest. And I think one of the things that I realized that I'm struggling with as William turns 8 is that 8 is really not a baby anymore. 3rd grade is not a baby anymore. And with our older son, everything in his life was a first. And so I think I approach it with trying to be overly prepared and making sure we talk things through. And because it's not only a first for him, his firsts are my firsts as a parent. And then when it comes to our second child, his firsts are my last. The first time that he goes to kindergarten is the last time I'm going to have a kindergartner. The first time he goes to a soccer tournament, his very first one, that's my last first. And I don't want to admit that I'm a selfish parent in that way, or that I think about, I don't, please don't let me mislead you, but I don't think about that every single time. But in this instance with my kids, I realized I do think about it a lot. And what I have realized is that every time I make my story or my need, like to cherish this last whatever, that I am taking away his ability to really enjoy his first. And, we say things like, well, we raise every kid the same way. No, we don't, and we shouldn't. So every time I have a need, like wanting to still have a child that's like a little more dependent on me, or a baby or whatever, like that, I'm making my story his story. And instead of making it mine, it just needs to be his. So all of the things that we did for our first child, I think we owe him the same things, but we also owe him his version of it. You all know, if you have more than one child, most likely your second or third, each one is like a little bit more advanced than the first, because they've watched the first one go through it. But that doesn't mean that their first time doing things isn't special, or that they aren't as capable. And this is what was really hard for me, that they aren't as capable as the older one was the first time they did something. And so I have really realized that a leader in our family, and a leader in my own life, I need to allow my kids' stories to be their stories and have my story be mine, and kind of take their lead and learn from them. Because every time I make William younger than he needs to be, or more needy than he needs to be, or more dependent on me than he needs to be, yet in the next breath I'm frustrated because he doesn't take the same initiative sometimes, or he doesn't. I do not want to get in the comparison game with our kids, because again, if you know them, they are so different. They're so different. And they require different things out of me, which is hard, but also causes me to grow and challenges me in ways that I think I need to be challenged, not only as their mom, but as a person. And so, um, as a leader in my own life, I will continue to work on encouraging my kids to be as big and as capable and fill as much space as that moment requires, without having to make their moment about me. And those moments that are about me, I'm going to really try to be conscious and do my very best to take those moments when it's my time to have that moment, not right in the middle of theirs. So I hope that makes sense. And then the next thing, the last thing that I just want to talk about is I made a blog post, or a post on Instagram yesterday, asking if any other parents out there, or people, I guess, are having this weird internal conflict about the busyness of life. Here's why I ask. First, when COVID started and the world shut down, all I wanted was for our calendars to be full again. All I wanted was to have our life back. And changing our pace from the go, 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 and being involved in so many things and being connected to so many people, when that was all like taken away or canceled, when our life was canceled, the change of pace was very, very hard. I don't think I'm alone in saying that. In fact, I know I'm not alone in saying that. And yes, we found some beautiful family moments, and we look at pictures from last spring and we were like outside constantly. We went everywhere we could to hike. We cooked. We found out a lot about each other doing virtual learning. We had a lot of really wonderful moments. But there was also a lot of loss in those moments when we weren't able to participate in much of the life that we had chosen to participate in. And now that that, at least personally speaking for my family, that we have been waiting to get back, our activities, being able to be in person and watch our kids' activities, being able to invite grandparents and aunts and uncles and friends, and to be part of a more active in-person part of our lives and our children's lives. There's also been a big uptick in our schedule because we actually get to do things again. And as much as that's what we've been waiting in months, over a year for, I'm not going to lie, I was feeling a little bit overwhelmed when I began to look at our summer schedule. And I've thought about a lot of things. One, I got a little, even though I think it's so true, I got a little angry when people would say, oh, make sure whatever you're rushing back, we're all waiting to have our lives back, but make sure whatever you're going back to is a life worth going back to, or that these are really activities that are meaningful for you. And I get it. I mean, I agree. There are some things that I think we've all realized maybe we took time for that weren't necessary, that was more of an obligation than a desire, or was like not really in alignment with our values, the things that we were spending time on. But now that I look at our activities and the world we're going back to, I don't think it's deciding what we want to go back to. I think it's just deciding the importance we place on that thing when we go back. And I think that's what was not settled with me before. So, for example, I made a post yesterday asking, like, is anybody else feeling a little conflicted about or just overwhelmed just because I forgot how to have a busy schedule? I forgot how I structured things to remember what we had, and I forgot how it felt to operate at this pace with kids. I forgot how we used to do this so normally and naturally. And I did get a little bit of, have a little bit of fear about how we were going to hold on to the important independent family moments that I think we've established over the last year of quieter times that I don't want to lose. And one mom said to me, in fact, she's Anne, this friend that I grew up with and I've known since we were 2 years old, someone I really admire and love dearly. And she said, I'm feeling the same way, which even that was like a gift. And then she said, I just think that maybe attendance and being absolutely every single place all the time, showing up at every event and every practice and every game and every all, that maybe it just won't be that way anymore. That maybe I'll give our family grace when I know it's like in the middle of a week and we're all burnt out and we just need to maybe sit this one out. And I thought, yes, yes, that is the both and of life that I am learning that I want to return to life with. I want to know that I want us to have the opportunity and the freedom to choose the things that we want to participate in. And we're very fortunate that we have a lot of options. Maybe not all of the options back yet, but we have a lot of options. But I also want to return knowing that it doesn't have to be exactly the way it was the first time, because we've learned different things about how we need to spend our time to make sure that it aligns with our values as a family. And that now that we've missed things, we understand that maybe the importance that we placed on never missing anything didn't really align with our values. It just felt like an expectation that we had to show up for. And so in this season of our life, my goal is to continue to be aware of how we are spending our time and making sure that that time aligns with the values that we hold as a family. And that all of that is about the both and. It's about existing in one space and knowing that taking a temporary absence from it is probably okay too, if it means staying in alignment with the values that your family have. So those are the things I've been thinking about. This week. Yeah. What I'm loving, how I'm leading, and it's what I'm learning. And I laugh a little bit because when I was a principal, my school counselor and somebody who's been a guest on this podcast before, Jessica Stickle, her and I sat in my office one day in like 2011, 2012, and we were trying to come up with 3 key areas that we wanted everyone in the school to focus on when it came to interaction and behavior and how we treat each other. And after hours of, and weeks going back and forth trying to do things, we came up with how are we leading? How are we loving? And what are we learning? And every single thing that existed in our space as a community, school community, fell into that. And I don't think I've ever let go of that, because I feel like that is how my life is categorized too. What I'm loving, how I'm loving, what I'm learning, how I'm learning, and how do I want to show up as a leader in this life? And so this podcast today is a lot shorter than my normal ones, and hopefully you appreciate a shorter one in between. But I'm going to be sprinkling these in throughout the United State of Us podcast series. So I'll release it online and on YouTube on a Tuesday. And then I will put it, just the audio version of this, in the podcast on Fridays. I will be back with a guest next week, but for this week's United State of Us podcast, I'm Erin Flood. Hope you're enjoying spring weather wherever you're listening from. If you like what you heard today, don't forget to rate, subscribe, and share the United State of Us podcast with your friends. And if you have any ideas or suggestions about guests for the podcast, or somebody you think I definitely need to connect with, don't be afraid to email the show, theunitedstateofus@gmail.com. Look forward to seeing you soon.